Hey, it's Scott. Welcome back to another episode of Spin Magazine's Lip Service. I'm joined with one of my favorite rock bands in the whole world and three-time alumni on the show, the Struts, Luke and Adam. How are you, my friends?
Good, mate.
Good, thank you.
Coming straight off the heels of your Japanese shows, we were just talking about Osaka and Tokyo. And by the way, my favorite place in the entire universe, Japan. Like, how cool is Japan?
It's great.
I agree.
It's like nowhere else on earth.
I saw that you were drinking like some kind of alcohol out of like a poisonous snake, 200-year-old something,
God.
right? Is that the truth or something?
Yeah,
I'm not sure if it was 200 years old, but there was a snake in it.
Yeah, well, it said like 200-year-old, like vodka with a poisonous whatever in it, right? So
They claimed it was an aphrodisiac, didn't they?
did it work?
Oh, yeah.
Well, it woke me up. But apparently it's a delicacy. Is that what? I don't know. It's like, and then there's another thing with like seal in it, which was.
That I wouldn't eat. I don't think I'd do the snake thing either, but either one.
Yeah.
I don't think I had a choice. I just remember it being given to me and pretty much.
I
like,
had a
shoved down my
choice,
throat.
but I chose to try it.
I want to talk about everything. You guys have been on the show a bunch of times, and I love you guys. And we actually just had a great time at my. I did like 57 birthday parties this year because I'm a Leo, and that's what you do when you're Leo. You have a bunch of birthday parties. So thank you, by the way, for coming on, and you did a great rendition of Rebel Rebel, and we got to do Jumpin' Jack Flash. Luke was amazing, so I appreciate it. And yeah, we've known each other for now, I don't know, like 8 or 10 years, I guess, right?
When you were in New York.
Exactly.
That's when we met. Yeah.
And it's crazy because I always say that you're like my favorite new rock band, but you've actually been around for like 11 years at this point, right?
It is strange. Everyone keeps referring to us as this new band.
Not at all.
Which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
You know, keep it fresh, I guess.
Well, you have an amazing, great song out, Falling With Me, and actually, there is a record coming out, I believe, right, that will accompany this too? Or is that, I don't know when the record will come out, but I guess a few months later or so? We
are hoping to complete the record by the end of this year. So it's been a little bit time consuming because we haven't been able to sort of block out a good amount of time without having to get back out on the road and do shows. So we don't really have a lot happening towards the end of this year, which is nice.
Yeah, it kind of. The problem was we had to keep doing shows, so whenever we got a little bit further with the album, we had to press pause and do shows. So after some shows in September, we're kind of taking a break to really knuckle down and get it done.
Awesome. Well, the new song "Falling With Me" is amazing, by the way, and it's kind of reminds me of your first record in a sense. It's that straight ahead, huge chorus, and we were talking a little bit about the state of the music industry and TikTok, and you were like, "I got a guy for you. Like, you need a guy, Scott, that can make these TikTok videos because that's part of the marketing now of bands." And I was looking through all your TikToks, which is how I know that you drank that poisonous snake or vodka, whatever it was.
I don't even know what it was.
I don't know what it was either, but it's so interesting, and I want to talk about the last few years for you because I think the last time I saw you, Luke, it was with Albert Hammond Jr. We were talking about Strange Days and the single. But talk to me about a little bit, because we really haven't caught up properly. During the pandemic, you did these drive-in shows, you did Sunday services. I think you launched like the Struts radio, right? Mm-hmm. So the last couple of years and just now getting to play again, you have a tour coming up, like a mini tour, I think at the end of the year. Talk to me about that time period and leading up to these new tracks that you're making and what it was like for you, because everyone had a different experience during the last couple of years. And I know the drive-in shows were not great because no one loves those kind of things. But the last couple of years, since we haven't caught up properly, other than this crazy birthday party I just had, talk to me about what that was leading up to now.
Yeah, I think the pandemic definitely was challenging, but I think we made the best of that kind of difficult situation. I remember when we started to hear like echoes of the virus sort of like taking hold of everywhere and everyone having to cancel things. We obviously, like everyone else, didn't really quite take it seriously. Then our Japanese tour got postponed, everything else. And we were just sort of thinking, oh my God, what's happening? And when it came to the last record, Strange Days, we originally just sort of thought to ourselves, okay, well, if this is going to take a minute, we thought it would be like 6 months, 7 months. We thought, well, why don't we get into the studio with John Levine, a great friend and producer and collaborator of ours, and do maybe 2 or 3 songs in 10 days. And we ended up, I don't know why, I don't know how, but we recorded 9 original songs and wrote them along with a cover in 7 days, and then 3 days were used to lay down the lead vocal and guitar overdubs. So we made an album, and then that kind of tied us over for some time. Like you said, we were doing things like Sunday service, which, to be fair, the other guys in the band really sort of excelled in that area. And they did a great job of sort of like providing like loads and loads of like cool content. We just wanted to stay in touch with our fans as much as we could, because we knew as it progressed, this was not going to sort of be a 6-month thing. And lo and behold, we actually didn't do a show for the best part of about 18 plus months or so. And then
you kind of got stuck at like your parents' house in London, right?
Yeah, so we had this opportunity to go back to the United Kingdom, where we were going to play like a charity soccer event at like a halftime show with Robbie Williams, who was featured on the title track of the record. And the only downside was our working visas for the United States had officially ran out, and we were told that if you stay here, then we'll just keep rolling it over because the embassies are closed. But if you leave, you're not going to be able to come back legally and work until everything opens up again. So we were really stuck between a rock and a hard place. And lo and behold, we decided to take the chance. And it did sort of work in our favour. We ended up getting playlisted on UK radio for the very first time, really, awesome. Which was great. But yeah, like you said, it meant that we had to move in with our parents for a little bit.
It really kills the dream for a minute, right? All of a sudden you're playing for like 100,000 people, then your mom's like, "Hey, Luke, can you throw out the garbage?"
Yeah, exactly.
You're like, "What?" I thought I was like...
It was fun.
It's interesting. I mean, Robbie Williams, by the way, like such a huge star in London and England and everything, never really broke here the way he did over there, but he's massive over there.
Yeah.
And so that was great. You got to work with him. And the last record was full of collaborations. Obviously, you did, you had Kesha, you had Tom Morello, you had Joe Elliott from Def Leppard, who was on the show, and Phil Collins not long ago. So does this record that you're working on now, is that going to feature some collabs possibly? We're trying to get a scoop here. Yeah,
well, the scoop is I can officially sort of like say that Strange Days as a record was sort of like a moment in time. That was always the idea. And I think we just, for the hell of it, we weren't really viewing it as like an album. It was something to tie us over. And I think the reason why we had such an extensive amount of collaborations on it was purely because it was a moment in time, and everyone was sort of like stuck at home with their home studios, and we thought, fuck it, like let's exploit how strange these days are.
Yeah.
Having that many people on it is also somewhat surreal, so it just amplifies the whole message. This new record, I think we really want to just hone in on being a band. The four of us. At the moment, we're not really exploring like a feature as of yet, but I don't know, who knows? If the right thing happens and it feels natural, then we'll see.
We'll see, yeah. I love that about you, by the way, because you're always open, but you actually kind of did another record during that time period that didn't come out. So you're sitting on, right, a batch of songs from that time period. Is that possibly making its way onto the new record, or is that sort of a whole nother project?
Well, Falling With Me was actually written pre-pandemic.
Oh, okay, so it was part of that batch of songs.
Yeah, and we had a whole bunch of tracks. Some might make this record, depending on how we revisit them. But when we started to once it became 3 songs, 4 songs, 5 songs, 6 songs during the Strange Days sessions, we thought, well, no, let's keep these as they are, because they capture a moment, and you can hear there's an atmosphere like on those songs where it's literally the 4 of us plus John recording in a room no bigger than this, just playing and working.
Yeah, because there was a few songs we were going to put on it because it kind of suited with the songs, but then it was like, well, they were written in another time, and we just kind of want to keep it, and which was cool because that means we saved those songs, but we just kept it as that album was the 10 days
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
it, nothing more.
Let's hope there's not like a monkeypox-inspired concept album coming up next.
Oh
'cause
my God.
I don't even know if Strange Days Part
Stranger
2.
Days.
I don't know, right? There could be anything coming up. But it's interesting, when you talk about the state of rock and roll, you've always been one of my favorite bands, and I've been championing the band for, I think, quite some time. So I love you guys. You look at like the stadium tour, and you look at Motley and Def Leppard and Poison. Those tours are doing huge business. I think they're pulling in something like $5 million per show.
I bet.
So, and you guys should be on that show, by the way. Shout out to Nikki. Do you hear us, Nikki Six? But I feel like the state of rock and roll, especially in the live, in the live space, is coming back in a big way. And when you look at a tour like that, so talk to me about the state of rock and roll now, and for a band like yourselves. And again, kind of bringing it back to that conversation we were just having a few minutes ago, and what you have to do to market yourselves to be relevant right now, right? Because it is a different time period. And your new song, "Falling for Me," is sort of about the days of the Sunset Strip, which I love because it's when I grew up out here and I had the big hair and I was in one of those bands. But yeah, I mean, talking about the song and about the state of rock now and what you guys are doing to sort of market this new music coming up.
Well, I mean, the state of music in general is constantly changing, the way that it's consumed and listened to and purchased, etc. Even from the time when we did the last album. I think, when we briefly talked about TikTok before we started recording, that's become even more so prevalent in the last 18 months, maybe because of the pandemic. I think everyone's sort of like, in the same way as Netflix and all the streaming sites started pumping millions and millions of dollars into new things because there's a big demand for people just sort of sat on their phones and consuming things like that. But I think it would be really stupid for a group that, or any artist for that matter, that's wanting to excel and grow, to ignore something like TikTok. I think it really separates. It does divide people, and I get people's reasonings for it. I think some people will look at it and think, it's sort of kitschy and a bit silly and whatnot. But I mean, it's just pick your poison, like. Back in the day, if you were to go on a show like, some bands would have never liked to do something like Top of the Pops, for instance, because they would have thought it was a bit of a joke. Or, when we were growing up, we had like the morning TV shows, didn't we? Like, that were aimed at kids, and they were fun and cute, but you'd have artists and bands come on because it's a way of reaching like a different audience. And I think TikTok's no exception. And it's almost like the Wild West at the moment, because it's at that really interesting part of its development where it's not really being censored too much, it's not really being controlled, it's not sort of being bought out by these huge massive companies and shoving like Coca-Cola adverts down everyone's throats at the moment. It's still very much like about the content, and whatever becomes, quote, viral happens naturally. So it's really exciting. And I think Gethin, the drummer in the band, has done a fantastic job over the last year of sort of building up like our sort of like TikTok profile.
He's great on it. He's
he's
like
really
the band
fun.
mascot or something.
He's really good.
He's like Animal from the Muppets, really. He's like sort of like, I love him, by the way. Falling With Me is actually a different departure vocally, I think, for you. It's interesting. You did this video where you're like, guess who's singing the song on TikTok? Because it is, I guess you would probably say it's a departure vocally from your normal style of singing in a way, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I definitely had my reservations about it, probably as soon as we had done it. And it was actually ads that mentioned, like, further down the line, once we revisited it, he was like, no, I think your vocal delivery is actually really interesting, and I think that might be something that people sort of like grab hold of, because it's not you like screaming at the top of your lungs like you always do, and like, and I was like, well, I mean, I'm fine with that, because now we're doing it live, and it's really connecting live, and it's really fun for me to sing live, because it's not exactly the most challenging, so I can really just sort of like get involved with the audience and enjoy the moment. And it's under 3 minutes, and it's a real highlight in the set. And
you just did it at Supersonic in Osaka, right?
Summer Sonic, sorry. And
how was that? I mean, it sounds like the crowd reaction was incredible.
It was great, wasn't it?
Yeah, we weren't technically allowed to let people shout, like encourage them to sing or anything like that, but that's like, our bread and butter. Basically, it's our show.
Because of COVID, we like to add.
Yeah, because of COVID.
Oh, you mean because they're not allowed? I mean, they're very subdued anyway, the Japanese audiences, right? They're very polite.
But if you tell them to jump, they jump.
They will, right?
So, like, no, so they went nuts for the song, and that was just, I think natural reaction.
It was actually Adam's fault. So we got sat down, and everyone was like, look, the festival sort of politely asked us, they know what you like. This isn't your first rodeo.
Sit in the chair.
They want you to sort of, they're trying to discourage you from the audience from singing and shouting and stuff. And we were like, okay, let's try. And then, of course, like the adrenaline gets into you. The other three guys jump onto stage a minute or so before I do. And Ads comes out straight away and just force of habit just does this. Puts his hand behind his ear and everyone starts going, woo! So it was like, all right, well, here we are, business as usual. So, but they loved it. And you could really feel that they were just starving for like live music and wanting to let go. So the reaction that we got was probably one of the most unique and intense that we've experienced over there, because we've done the festival like 3 times now.
Yeah,
and they love rock music over there, by the way.
Yeah,
but that was interesting, Bill, because it was like you, it was Meg Thee Stallion, it was Young Blood, right? Yeah. So it was sort of an eclectic mix of different artists there, which is amazing. But interesting. So that you were saying there's like a second wave of COVID going on now in Tokyo.
Well, they actually said it was like the 15th wave.
Oh, okay. I thought it was the second wave. But
it's insane. Yeah, it's insane. It's really like, well, it's not open to tourists at the moment.
Right.
But yeah, when you land at the airport, everyone was getting PTSD, weren't we? Like, oh my God, like this is literally like stepping back in time. And it was quite funny having to fill out all the forms again and like get your temperature taken, masks everywhere.
So all the audience are wearing masks there.
Yeah.
And we went to like Universal Studios Japan, and we were outside, so I pulled my mask down, and then like people running over to me like, put your mask back on. I was like, oh God, okay.
Yeah, it's like a nightmare all over again, reliving the whole thing. Yeah. It's crazy. Well, talk to me. Like I said, you guys were on the show before and we went through your whole history, but there are some key moments in the history of the Struts, which I always love going over. So many amazing stories. I mean, basically France is kind of where the band really started to get its, now you said the UK is now embracing the band finally, which is about time. It should have happened 5 years ago. Yeah. But you kind of started in France, and there's an iconic moment when you opened up for the Stones years ago. And I know you've told that story before, but talk to me about it again, because such a great story. Mick Jagger, you chilling side of the stage afterwards, right during sound check.
Yeah. I mean, it was great, and you were right. It was a very pivotal moment, quite a life-changing moment in many ways. But for some bizarre reason, when we were in the United Kingdom, our label they told us that they were taking our singles like Could Have Been Me, Kiss This, Put Your Money on Me to UK radio, and we were told that no one was really sort of picking up on it. France, on the other hand, for some bizarre reason, heard the music and thought, this is great, these guys must be huge. And then they basically took it to a station called WeFM, which is based in Paris, and it's one of the coolest sort of stations for rock music. If you're English and you end up going to Paris, and you're in a band, you're definitely going to be on WeFM. They'll have everyone from like Liam and Noel Gallagher like doing their own things, or even like Youngblood, for instance, that we mentioned earlier. And yeah, it was just quite bizarre. We sort of found ourselves traveling over the channel in a little white van, and we got there, and there was just like hundreds and thousands of people just sort of, wanting to come see us play.
Amazing.
Like all the time. And it was our first real experience of playing great shows consistently. So we'll always have like a special place in our hearts for the French. And then quickly soon after that, once we'd earned some sort of like reputation of being a good live band, some band, I think it might have been Primal Scream, dropped out of playing with the Rolling Stones at the Stade de France in this big stadium, and we were in this pub in Scunthorpe in the United Kingdom. Scunthorpe. It's
the Lincoln Imp.
The Lincoln Imp, and it sounds as nice as it. Yes. It is as nice as it sounds. Yeah. It's not a very nice place, and it was literally a pub, and we were upstairs in in a backstage room. It was basically like an old inn, and there was like a flea-ridden mattress on the floor. We were all sort of sat around, genuinely thinking like, what are we doing with our lives? Like, is this it? We've got all this music, like we just can't seem to get a break.
We also kind of knew that we were probably about to get dropped because they put our album out with like no promotion whatsoever.
This is pre-Interscope, because before you were in Interscope, you were on a
this is like we were signed to Future Records, which then got eaten by Mercury Records, which then got
eaten again
by Virgin EMI, and we were like this unwanted child that kind of went along with all of it.
And those songs were kicking around for 5 years,
ages
6 years
ago.
ago. Yeah,
I mean, we wrote Could Have Been Me and Kiss This like 2011.
Yeah.
So like 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
So we're sat there like in this Lincoln Imp, and we just get this phone call from our manager at the time, and he was like, you know, you sat down, and we were like, oh God, why?
You're dropped.
Yeah, really bracy. We were like, you know, we knew that was coming. They were like, no, you're opening up for the Rolling Stones.
When you get a call like that, it's life-changing.
It was amazing.
Definitely.
We literally like played that pub like we were at the stadium that night. We were like, come on. And had a very big party. And then of course, like after doing the show, you know, I mean, it was a great experience. Got to sort of like briefly meet obviously the Stones themselves, especially Mick, which was an absolute honor. But because of that, when we decided to really make a change internally and to do with our management, and Adam did a great job finding some fantastic managers here, you know, our lack of radio support and the fact that we'd somehow managed to open up for the Stones was sort of like our hidden sort of like, it was the ace up our sleeve.
Yeah.
Because when we took those songs to America, the fact that, you know, no one had played us, everyone thought was a positive. They were like, cool, we can embrace this band, we can own this band, and sort of give them a helping hand, and the rest is history.
And Mick, you guys hit it off, obviously, right? Like you do with Steven Tyler and all your other stars that are friends.
I mean, like I had some really nice conversations with them, and then we were lucky enough to go on and be invited back to open up for them a few times after that throughout Europe, which was incredible. Do I have Mick Jagger's phone number? Not quite, but you know, we still, you know, had great conversations, especially and we were lucky enough to support and see them when Charlie Watts was still alive as well.
Amazing.
And I remember Gethin and him having a great convo about his Gretsch kit, and it was very sweet to watch, actually.
Amazing. It's funny because my friend Jeffrey Josh, shout out to Jeffrey, called me years ago. He's like, I need you to have dinner with Mick tonight. And I said, Mick who? And he's like, Mick Jagger. I'm like, me? What, is this a mistake? Do you call the right person? And at the end, it was amazing, by the way. It was like top 3 night of my life. It was just me and him and my girlfriend at the time. And at the end, I was like, I wanted to get his number, but I'm like, can I ask him? Do you ask Mick Jagger for his number? You really can't. He kind of has to offer it to you. So I was so bummed I didn't get a picture. It's like it didn't happen then, you know? I don't know what happened, but I was like blessed to have that happen. One of the greatest bands ever, and that's amazing. So that was a life-changing moment. What else is on the bucket list? Because you've opened up for every amazing band under the sun, Guns N' Roses, obviously the Foo Fighters, and we'll talk about that relationship in a moment. But what else is on the bucket list that you haven't done yet? Is there a band, Oasis maybe reforming?
I mean,
yeah. I mean, that would be fantastic.
I just want to see it, let alone play with them.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, I guess just our band just keep growing is bucket list would be our first arena tour, I think.
Yeah.
That's what we're working towards. That's the end goal.
Yeah, but touring with other bands, like you say, who else would it be?
Well, I think it's quite. I mean, it's funny again. Gosh, COVID just kind of messed everything up. But I do have like a good relationship with Steven Tyler. After hanging out with him, and I saw him actually just before COVID kind of took off.
Yeah, the charity
at his charity event.
Oh,
and we sort of reconnected. And shortly after that, I heard that they were going to be going out on tour, and we were, you know, heavily sort of like at the top of the tier in terms of who was going to open up for them. So that should have happened.
Yeah.
You know,
It still might. By the way, they're doing a whole bunch of shows. Yeah.
I've heard that, and. I think that would be great. I think Lenny Kravitz is also like a big hero of mine, I've got nothing but like respect for him, and I still think he's one of the coolest like rock stars that are still living.
Definitely. And he looks amazing, by the way, at 57. I don't know, it's crazy.
Insane.
What the hell is he drinking?
If there's a vampire, it's gonna be Lenny Kravitz, isn't it?
Well, it's funny because they say never meet your idols, but you did hang out with Liam Gallagher. I don't know whenever that was, and it was great. By the way, it wasn't terrible, right?
Yeah, that was funny.
Yeah, he was lovely.
He was good. Yeah.
Yeah, and we were pretty pissed as well. We were like, let's just go over there.
Yeah, we were pretty drunk at the time, but no, he was really gracious, and and he knew who we were as well, which was quite funny.
Very cool.
He was like, "I know you." He was like,
"You're in a fucking video on that fucking boat, aren't you?"
I've seen you on the fucking box, mate. You're like, you're the geezer who looks like Freddie Mercury. Innit? I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that's cool.
It's funny because we've talked about having him on the show. I was actually a little scared because you always hear these stories and you're like, I don't know if I want to. What if he's in a bad mood, right? Anything could go wrong. But did you think that before you met him? Were you like, you were careful about the approach because you never know how he's going to be?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, and the what's it, Dutch courage kind of got us over the line.
Yeah, I think he's almost like a tiger. If you're nervous and fearful, he can probably smell it and he'll probably exploit it. But a
lot of people say he's just a lovely bloke, though. Nowadays, Well, what he was like back in the 90s, I don't really know.
I think it's a little bit. Everyone has like a bit of a character that they slip into.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think he definitely has that reputation, and I reckon that he kind of plays with it a bit.
Yeah, I'm sure he does. Well, talk a little bit about, obviously, the Taylor Hawkins tribute shows are coming up September 3rd in London, but you're playing the one here September 27th. Talk to me about your relationship with Taylor. I know that you guys toured with them. You had a great relationship. You used to sing with his band sometimes, and obviously a very close-knit relationship. So talk to me about what he meant to you and what this tribute show will mean coming up.
Yeah, I mean, Taylor, first and foremost, I owe so much of like where I am right now to him, from getting the opportunity to open up for the Foos, which was huge for us, and was the best part of almost like a year. Even coming to LA and sort of like laying roots down here, which again was life-changing and probably something that I wouldn't have done if he hadn't encouraged it. So I owe him like a great amount, and I kind of still do with these shows that are coming up, because I still kind of find it a bit ludicrous that I'm even considered to be on that bill, considering like the lineup that I read and hear about.
Well, it's Brian May, Nikki Sixx, Alanis Morissette, Geddy Lee. It's crazy. It's a crazy lineup.
Yeah, I mean the show in Wembley, I mean, I don't really think about it too much, because if I do, I'm probably not going to sleep very well. But
are you doing the one in Wembley? You're just doing the one here?
I'm doing both.
Oh, you're doing both of them? Okay.
Yeah. All so, it's going to be a really bittersweet experience, and in many ways, I wish that like I wasn't doing it, but I kind of know in my heart of hearts, and I can actually see Taylor sort of like jumping with excitement, like if I was to have called him up and be like, hey, I'm going to be singing a couple of Queen songs with Queen, he'd be like, oh my God, look, I know that he'd be like super like excited for me. So I kind of have like comfort in that.
So will you be performing with Brian May too?
Yeah. So,
amazing. So
what happened is we were actually in Lake Como preparing to do a couple of shows, and Pat Smear got a hold of Ads to then get a hold of me, and he was like, look, I know that you and Taylor were preparing to go out when we got back from our tour, to sort of like play loads of covers, and of course Queen would have taken up a lot of the set. And he was like, how would you like to sort of come to Wembley and actually sing some Queen? And I was like...
You can't even think of it. That's such a huge... it's daunting, right?
So I was like, I mean, first and foremost, I was like, well, I mean, of course. Like, I'm just happy to be... I was like, look, you want me to do like a verse or just like one chorus? I don't care. Like, I'm there. And then like a couple of weeks went by, and then Pat got in contact with me again. And he was like, well... Brian's going to be there at London. Roger's going to be there. How would you actually like to sing some Queen with them as well? And I was like, what do you want me to do? And and then he went through a list of a couple of songs, and I got invited to a couple of weeks ago to sort of kind of try out in many ways, to sort of play with Dave and the rest of the band. And Pat was like, look, these are the ones that we're thinking that you're going to do. Dave is meant to be doing another one, but just be prepared to sing them all. Right. So I was like, okay. So I went there, and then I did the first one, and everyone was like, okay, this is great. And then Dave starts playing the song that he's meant to be singing. And Pat's like, come on, fucking sing it. And I'm like, all right. So I sang that one, and Dave's like, well, looks like you're fucking singing that one as well. And then I then just carried on. But as of yet, I'm going to be lucky enough to do 4 songs all together.
Amazing.
Which will be like huge. So
Yeah.
I'm flying to London on Saturday with the rest of the Foos. And we're all going to be staying in London leading up to the shows and actually pulling everyone in for the rehearsals, because like Liam Gallagher's going to be playing, Brian Johnson's going to be singing, sorry. So they're sort of like, they've rented out this giant space for the first 3 days and sort of putting the set together. Then we've got rehearsals in the stadium itself, and then show day.
We got to get ads on those rehearsals, maybe, right?
I wish. No, I'll be just cheering on from the sidelines.
Yeah.
What's also interesting, I just read an article today, by the way, about you saying that Bohemian Rhapsody is the greatest rock song ever, right? So it's fascinating that this is all coming together in this sort of apex for you, right? So, and obviously, such respect to all those guys. I'm super excited to hear you sing with them. I think that's probably so surreal for you that it's probably even hard to talk about, because did you ever think you'd get the chance to sing with Queen?
No.
I know it's sort of, you probably manifested this from like a young age, in a sense, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's just strange how things work. Like, I had actually been speaking to Brian on something which was totally unrelated, which I can't really go into too much at the moment. But there was sort of like talks of us doing something with each other. And, it's just everyone's kind of busy, everyone's doing their own thing. So I was kind of already in touch with him. And then, obviously, I get the terrible news about Taylor, and that just kind of like, rocked my world, rocked everyone's world. And shortly after sort of being offered to do the shows, I was going back and forth with Brian, and we were both sharing stories about Taylor and stuff. And I just sent him a video of when me and him were playing at the Corbin Bowl.
Sure.
And we were doing Hammer to Fall.
Yeah, amazing.
And I was like, great memories, like, sent him this and then sent it to him, and he was like, oh, maybe we should do some of this at Wembley. And I was like, well, really? And he was like, tell Dave. And I was like, okay, like, I'll tell you. But yeah, it is strange how kind of things work. And like I said, it's going to be a really weird experience. But first and foremost, I mean, even chatting with Dave, he pulls me to one side at the end, and I got to talk to him briefly, and he was like, look, this isn't going to be like a funeral. This is going to be like a celebration.
Yeah.
He was like, don't think of it as sort of like this somber event. Like, we're going to be partying, and we're going to be like doing this all justice. This is why we're doing it at Wembley, because Taylor deserves like nothing less than like the biggest and the best, and he would have been chuffed about that. So, like I said, it's just an honor to be a part of it.
I had the pleasure of meeting him once. Seemed like the greatest guy. I wish I got to spend more time with him. But I think I agree. I think this will be a celebration of his life. So that's incredible that you're getting to do this. And talk to me a little bit about the new song again, "Falling with Me." I know that you filmed it. You filmed it in like this great house, but there was also like a old porn set or something that you filmed it on. That I saw.
My god, yeah.
What was that all about?
Well, funny enough, that's not actually the.
Was that for TikTok or was that for the video?
That was for TikTok.
Okay.
It's not the official video. We got the edit of the first video a couple of days ago, which does include the porn set. Or looks like one anyway. It was the first thing I thought when we worked on set, and I was like, I wonder how much jizz has been spilled in this room.
You don't want to sit anywhere.
No. But yeah, I mean, so the song itself, like I said, was the demo was constructed 2019, and it was lyrically like written about someone that I was seeing at the time. And
do I know that person? Possibly. Maybe.
Okay. So we would always kind of like meet at the Rainbow, and at like a specific time, and it was just kind of our thing.
9:45.
And then we would then go. It's sort of like a great place to sort of like pre-game.
Yeah.
And then you go around everywhere else, and all these little things and conversations that we would have, I would kind of write them all down, like the opening lines, like "You be my Alice, I'll be your Mad Hatter." Like sometimes there were texts that we would send, and before I knew it, there was some sort of like theme going on, like lyrically. And then when we went to the session that day, we started listening to like the music, and Adam had this really weird like guitar riff which was really super kooky, and like everyone was loving it. And then I started to do the f after a while, and everyone was like, "Yep, that's it." And what could have been quite a romantic, like not cheesy, but just sort of your typical kind of love song, became more of like this Alice in Wonderland, like unique love song, instead of sort of saying like falling for me, like falling with me, like are you know, let's jump, let's take that chance. You know, I thought that was an interesting way of approaching a love song.
I never even got the whole Alice in Wonderland falling down the hole with the whole falling with me till like the other day.
There we go.
Oh yeah.
What's
That's
interesting
how slow I am.
Listen, me too. I'm the same. But it's interesting. The Rainbow, when you go in there, it's like a time warp. You know, you see people in there that don't know that it's like 2022. You know, what's going on? Like they're still dressed. I mean, listen, I came from that generation. I was there. We used to hang out there, and obviously harkens back to the days of Zeppelin, even, and Rod Stewart, and everyone, the Stones. Everyone used to hang out there. But it is weird when you go in there, because they had like the Lemmy, you know, the slot machine there, but like really people don't know what year it is in there now.
No,
they have no idea.
They don't. And I like, we don't really tend to go there now quite a lot, but like at the time, I think if someone ends up moving to LA and they're like in a band, it's kind of like somewhere that you do hang out. I mean, the characters in there, I used to go there on my own and sit alone on the outside bar, just smoking cigs and sipping like whiskey or whatever, just to hear the conversations, just start writing things down. Because like the stuff that people say in there, I just find to be fascinating. But yeah, it's still we're well overdue a little cheeky drink at the Bow, as we call it.
Well, we'll have to go there and hang out, because we're also overdue for hanging out in like a regular setting here.
True.
But the new song was produced by Jason DeZuzio, who does Imagine Dragons, right? So and you used a couple different outside writers on this too, besides both of you. So talk to me about working with Jason. Obviously, is that your first time working with him, or had you worked with him before?
I think it was.
It's our first.
That was the first time. We've been working with him since, which is great. But it's an odd pairing, isn't it? But we enjoy that.
Yeah, I think it was. Like we'd never met before. Kind of, we wrote the song in like an hour. Yeah. So, and it was kind of strange, and I don't know. It was really unexpected, and then we kind of walked away from it like, oh wow, this is a really good song actually. So, no, it's great, and been working with him more and more, and he really gets us, which is really cool, and gets what we want to do for this next album.
Definitely. And so the record, you're thinking like December, maybe a December release?
No, I think it's probably, knowing us, it's probably going to be like early spring. It's going to be the first quarter of next year.
Definitely have another single out, though, in the meantime.
Yeah, we're probably going to have a second single alongside the release itself, hopefully.
So 2023, we're looking towards a new record, a tour, but you do have dates coming up now. So September 8th, Hampton Beach, all the way to October 9th, the Aftershock Festival, which is exciting. So you got about, 10 dates or so. Anything you're looking really forward to for this year and the rest of this year coming up?
Yeah, I mean, I think with the dates that you mentioned should be like a lot of fun. Obviously, we got the the LA Taylor show, which should be like
amazing.
Just I have no idea what that's going to be like, but I think it's going to be pretty biblical, to be fair. And then because now we've got the single out and it's just only really come out, we're going to be doing some sort of like radio performances, like Christmas things that they do sort of towards the end of the year, which should be really fun. Yeah. But I think we're both just looking forward just to getting our hands like dirty with this new album, and
the fourth record.
And just really getting stuck in and creating it.
Amazing. Well, I think we're going to be taking the show live. I think we're going to be doing something called the Spin Session. So Spin Magazine presents. So I'll be hitting you guys up for sure, because you were so great the other day. It was so, I forget how incredible you are when I see you play. I saw you at the Roxy. When was that set of shows you did there?
That was
when was that?
2008. End of May 2018.
But honestly, some of the best rock shows I've seen like in ages, and you were so amazing back then. So everyone go out and rush out to see these shows coming up, because you have a slew of shows coming up, 8 shows. I love you guys. Thanks for hanging. It's so great to see you. I'm definitely going to try and make it to the Taylor tribute show coming up now that I'm in town. And definitely check out the new single and the new record when it comes out. I appreciate you coming in as always, and great to see you both.
Thank you, mate.
Thank you very much.
Of course.